Hey Swifties! Welcome to a brand new episode of Swiftie School, where together we walk Clownelia Street covering the latest news and Easter eggs from our fearless leader, Taylor Swift. I'm your host, Reagan Bailey, and it is enchanting to have you here. Now that we're out of the woods, let's get into today's episode.
It's another great day to be alive at the same time as Taylor Swift. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. My name's Reagan. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're new to the podcast, this is just an expression of my thoughts and opinions, and in no way am I associated with Taylor Swift or Taylor Nation, although I would love to be. Hi, I am currently in Palm Springs right now. Like I said on the last episode, I'm not there, but I'm pre-recording. So for today's episode, since we have so many new listeners and we've expanded to YouTube and all that jazz, I say we, but I mean I. And also look at how cute my nails are if you're watching from YouTube or on Spotify video. Obsessed. I wanted to do a little bit of a Q&A style episode. I haven't done one in a minute, and I have a couple of guest episodes coming up, so I figured I would get you guys familiar with me a little bit further. We're going to split up the episode half personal, half Swiftie. Like I said, because I'm pre-recording, I don't want to give you any sort of Taylor updates or clown about anything too specific today because I don't exactly know what's going to happen by the time this comes out. But I will say I don't think anything will happen between now and like next week. But if anything, probably August. But I guess we'll get there when we get there. And the air will be feeling salty and the door will be rusty, if you know what I mean. Now, I asked you guys over on Instagram at Swiftie School Podcast to basically send in some questions. You could ask anything. Nothing was off limits. And you guys sent in a really good mix of stuff. So I figured we would start with personal and just kind of dive headfirst fearless. And I don't know how the one thing I will say today's episode is Taylor has chugged through quite a few of the surprise songs. I know that she's officially sung all the Evermore songs. I think that she has the One Reputation song. We know that. And then I feel like she's got like a few obvious ones that she'll play. Like she'll clearly play Florida when she's in Miami. She'll clearly do So Long London and London Boy while she's back in London. Like maybe I'll get one of those as my surprise song. I think if I were to choose between So Long London or London Boy, ooh, I do love London Boy. You know I love a London Boy. I enjoy rockin' Brixton, rockin' in the afternoon. I think that one would be fun on guitar, but So Long London would be really like deep and emotional on the piano. I would love either of those, honestly. But anywho, we're making our way through the songs, and I feel like she's very much on track to like run out soon, which means she could leave I Did Something Bad for August 20th. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at, is like she's clearly running out of songs. She's ran out of ABBA combos for 1989. And we're clearly on the brink of something. I feel it in my bones. Now, I guess, like I said, diving headfirst fearless into the questions, the first question that I got personal-wise was someone asked, how do I deal with hate? And I'll be honest with you, it's kind of inevitable with the job that I have that is very public-facing or forward-facing, if you will. Pretty much anytime I post anything on the internet, it is open for anybody to say anything. And honestly, I welcome pretty much anything anyone has to say. To be quite frank, any sort of engagement on content is good because it helps boost my stuff. So even if someone's sharing it and talking, poorly about me or sending it to a friend and making fun of me, a share is helping my content get boosted. So whatever, fine. It is what it is. I don't think about that stuff. I'll be honest with you. As you get older, the biggest lesson that I've learned from like the beginning of my 20s till now being 28 years old is that you care so much less the older that you get. And I know that it only continues to go down that path. Like my mom says this, anybody that I've ever met that's older than me always says, you start to care so much less the older you are. And I believe that. I feel that for sure. Like 10 years ago, me would care so much more. I feel like even the fact that I like show up on this podcast, sometimes wearing the same shirt or sometimes not wearing makeup, or wearing full glam. Like I feel like I've become so comfortable the more I've shown up online, just accepting what is and being myself. And I've just noticed, I think the more I leaned into my goofiness and like the quote unquote real me, this is real, this is me, I'm exactly where I'm. What song is that? Demi Lovato? Where I'm supposed to be now. Is that from Camp Rock? I'm aging myself. Anyways, the more that I've shown up online, the less I've cared because I feel like I've leaned more into being myself, and being myself and getting hate or judgment for it is far more worth it to me than trying to be someone I'm not and getting hate for it, because then I'm already not confident in myself. Does that make any sense? Hopefully that's making sense. So I don't know. I think it's a mixture of age, sharing online for so long that I kind of know, it's part of the job. Like, obviously, I didn't sign up to get hate, but I also just don't really care. Most of the time, someone else's opinion of me is a reflection of themselves, and people are going to have opinions. It is what it is. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. I think my tea is great. And hopefully because you're here, you think my tea is great too. Now, next question that I got, personal related, is what are my favorite TV shows? And then the second part that they asked was how did I find my way into doing what I do? So favorite TV shows, I'll be honest with you, growing up, we weren't allowed, like my mom is not strict at all, but we just like didn't really watch a ton of TV. I wouldn't say we weren't allowed to. We just didn't watch a ton of TV. I'm not a huge movie person. I prefer TV shows over movies. So I'm not a big movie watcher. I honestly would rather do like arts and crafts in my room and sit and watch a movie is usually that honestly translates from my childhood even till now as an adult. But I love Grey's Anatomy is a great show. I love, love, love A Handmaid's Tale is like fantastic cinematically. Like the shots and the acting is amazing. Like there's so many elements to Handmaid's Tale that I think are so great. I also love documentaries. Like I really like anything that's true that I can learn something from. I'm trying to think on like Netflix if there's any shows that I'm obsessed with. I mean, I watch The Bachelorette and The Bachelor, but that's kind of junk, right? I feel like Handmaid's Tale, I would say, is like probably one of my top favorite shows, and Grey's Anatomy is really good too. I'm kind of behind on Grey's Anatomy, but it's one of those shows where you like turn it on and it doesn't really matter when you're watching or the last episode that you watched. Now, I've talked about this before, but how I found my way to do what I'm doing now. It's interesting because if you asked me 15 years ago when I was a teenager, what do I want to do with my life? I had a really hard time grappling with sort of my passions, but also pleasing the people around me and also figuring out what makes sense if I want to work for myself or I want to be self-employed or if I want to be my own boss. I have always been heavily interested. I think in another life, I was a surgeon, I was a doctor, I was a nurse, I was something medical related because I have been so heavily interested in anything medical related my entire life. I say this with like, take this with a grain of salt, but I also am like a very intuitive when it comes to like health or the body or knowing about ailments or random things. This is why I say, if you believe in like past lives or anything, this is why I say this. Someone will be like, oh, so-and-so was diagnosed with cancer. It's Hodgkin's, whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, the reason for this is that. And I think that it's probably because of this. Like, obviously I don't know the reason why they got cancer, but you know what I mean? Like I very much feel like I know a lot of things that I'm like, how do I even know that? I'm not really sure. But I think it's just because I've always had a genuine interest in anything health related. And I thought for a long time that I would maybe be like a medical examiner or do autopsies or something like that. I just wasn't really sure if going the medical route, being in school for that long and having to do a job where I had to physically report somewhere and or work for a hospital or work for someone was really my cup of tea. Which then I transitioned into like, what are some of my other passions? I knew I loved fashion. I knew I loved beauty. But even 15 years ago at the time of like me being, like, how old was I? 15 years ago? I don't know, 15 years old-ish, 13 years old. Back then social media wasn't really like, it wasn't a job. It was a thing, but it wasn't like, what it is now. So I never really thought of this as a career. I think I just have done a lot of soul searching. I've tried a lot of things. I've tried sales. That's how I started my career. I did medical sales. I did technology sales. I hated both of those. I was good at it, but I hated it. I hated the ethical debate behind it. I hated the people pleasing that went into it, just constantly having to climb this invisible ladder to please the big man up top and then get such a small sliver of the portion when it was not for me. So I think through trial and error, I'm a big, I don't know if opportunist is the right word. Is that the right word? I'm someone who's really big on trying everything you can, no matter how successful you are. So I talked about this, I can't remember with who recently, but basically, I don't care how successful I am. Obviously, right now in this season of my life, I am the most successful I've ever been in my career, but I am not slowing down by any means. I am constantly trying new things. I still have clients that I work with because I want to expand my skill set. I want to learn from other people. I never want to be so ingrained in my own bubble, in this podcast, in my content creator career, in my marketing clients that I forget to continue expanding my network, expanding my knowledge, all that jazz. So I think experimentation is kind of how I found my way to doing what I do now. Hopefully that answers your question. Little spinoff of that is someone asked, do I like English literature and analysis? Because it kind of goes hand in hand with being a Swiftie and clowning and dissecting lyrics or looking for clues and all that jazz. I very much liked English growing up. I will say I'm not a strong reader. Like I honestly struggle. Like when I read, I sometimes feel like I have to reread something a lot of times. I also feel like I would consider myself, I have to work very hard at school. Like things didn't come to me naturally. My brother could literally sleep through class and ace the exam, whereas I would be laser focused on the board, taking feverish notes, studying for hours at home, making note cards, waking up early before school, and I would get a B. I mean, I was a straight A student at the end of the day, but I had to work so hard to just do what felt like basic to a lot of people when it came to school. And I also think having that sort of quote unquote disadvantage helped me learn skills that made me hardworking, which make me more successful now versus if I was like my brother, I'd probably be a lot less motivated. Now, to answer your specific question about English literature, I loved English class and I loved projects where I could do sort of like clouding, but when it came to read Hamilton and talk about why the author did XYZ. I loved that sort of thing, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I loved reading is not my jazz. My jam. Reading is okay. I try to do as much reading as I can as an adult because I know it's important and I try to learn new things. I'm more of a nonfiction versus fiction person. So I'd say yes and no. I love the analysis. I love dissecting why people wrote things or did things or said things or created art certain ways. I love browsing museums. I love looking at art and interpreting it, but I wouldn't say literature is my number one, if that makes sense. Totally off topic. Sharp turn. Someone said, what would be my last meal if I could choose? Probably a death row meal is kind of what I'm assuming you're asking. Anything seafood. I love escargot with a good crispy piece of garlic bread. Ooh, where I could just have the little bite of snail, dip the garlic bread into the butter. Ooh, I would love that. There's this dish. If you ever come to Los Angeles and you're a seafood person, there's this restaurant called Evely. I'm obsessed with it. They have a crab pasta dish. It's absolutely fantastic. It's got breadcrumbs in the pasta. That sounds really strange, but it's super good. Fresh basil, huge lumps and chunks of crab with little bits of tomatoes and I can't remember what else is in there, just herbs. It is fantastic. I would probably have a side of that crab pasta with my escargot. I love a good crunchy French fry or any sort of baked potato. I would take potato in any form with my last meal. I would have a vintage cola Olipop. I'm obsessed with Olipops, the vintage cola specifically. I have it on Amazon subscription. It comes every week. I'm obsessed. And, what else? For my sweet treat, I would have ice cream, but I would need an assortment of ice cream. And I also need something hot to pair with my ice cream, like a nice fudgy brownie or like a loaded cookie of sorts. And for my ice cream, mint chip, butter pecan are non-negotiables. I need something chunky in my ice cream. I do not do soft serve. I like a chunky, hard, thick ice cream. Now I want ice cream. I have been telling Matt I want ice cream for a week, so maybe I'll finally convince him to go with me tonight because girl math tells me if I want ice cream and I ask him, do you want to go get ice cream? And he says no, I no longer want ice cream. I only want ice cream if the person with me also wants ice cream. But I digress. Hard pivot again. Someone wants to know, how do I deal with confidence issues? I am not perfect, okay? And I'm going to go off of what I said earlier when it comes to age. Obviously, we know you get wiser when you get older. That's I think even Taylor says that. She says older, but just never wiser. I say older, but actually wiser. There's also the mental obstacle of I have to constantly remind myself I am not meant to look the way that I did when I was 20 years old. And I say that because I have to put it in my mind in the context of when I was 18, I did not look like I was when I was 11 or 10 years old. And for some reason, it's harder for me to grasp because I think I remember being 20 a lot more. And I struggle a lot with body confidence is my biggest thing. You could throw me on a stage and tell me to toot in front of a crowd of 1,000 people and I'd be like, all right, fine, I'll do it. That to me, I don't struggle with. I struggle with internally, I am my own worst enemy. And I think that goes for almost all of us listening to this probably. But I constantly have to do little reality checkpoints with myself in my brain of let's pump the brakes here because that is probably the thing I've struggled with most as I've gotten older is the changes physically, not looking the same, not feeling the same. Your body doesn't act the same way. You need more sleep to recover from things. You can't stay up as late as you do without feeling the consequences of it. And I'm sure that only exacerbates the older you get, but I think it's just jarring. There's this weird pivot when you turn 26, 27, 28, where you're whoa, all of a sudden I feel so confident in myself, but also, especially as a female, you're on this strange mindset and timeline of am I falling behind? Am I right where I'm supposed to be? is this imaginary timeline of being a woman and needing kids by a certain age or needing to be married like actually real? Am I making that up in my head? Career-wise, like I'm so far behind where my parents were at this age. Like you do this whole mental thing and like constantly grappling with yourself. And I think that's what I struggle with most, or that's what I would like leave you with, is when it comes to dealing with confidence issues, like do a little third person check with yourself. Talk to your brain as if you're someone else and be like, no one will care what these jeans look like on me or if they look different than they did 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago or 2 years ago. And if they do, you need to reevaluate and get them out of your life. But I think like having these little checkpoints in your brain, if you saw the movie Inside Out, think of little people in your head and treating them with kindness, because that's really helped me. And I also love that movie and I would love to work with that movie in some capacity. Favorite hobby? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little bit of like a hobby jumper. I'll go through phases. Right now, I'm in a blanket making phase. I have the blanket right here. I'll show you. Da-da-da. You guys probably saw my video making this if you follow me on IG, but I made this blanket. Love that for me. I'm also making a maroon one for Matt right now. Kind of in a blanket moment. I love anything arts and crafts. That's pretty much consistent since I was a little kid. Anything artsy fartsy, I'm in. Anything girly, cute, and fun. Like if we're going to do a little paint and sip class and have ourselves a little afternoon and grab a little coffee and go to a little plaza and to a couple of boutiques, that sounds fun to me. I'm really a thrill seeker, if you will. And to me, the definition of thrill is very simple. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can involve food. It can involve shopping. It can involve socializing. And that's enough for me. But I will say, I like doing things in bits. So 2 hours is like my sweet spot. 2 to 3 hours max. And then I need my alone time. That's kind of how I operate. But anywho, that was 17 whole minutes of me blibber blobbering about myself. Let's transition into some Swiftie chitter chatter. You guys wanted to know my dream surprise song combos. Okay. I would love the manuscript and prophecy would be kind of epic, wildly depressing, and I would probably sob, but I like the idea of those two. You guys are going to judge me. I love the song Me. If Taylor came out, promise that you'll never find a lover like me. I love that song, and I would love it if it was mashed up with Welcome to New York. The energies for both of those songs for me, they cut deep. They cut deep, and a lot of people judge those songs, but I live for them. Give me a little walking through the crowd, the village is aglow. I love the intro of Welcome to New York. And then if she threw in a little Welcome to New York, I would go feral. I would probably be the only one, but I would go feral. I love it. What can I say? I also love Right Where You Left Me and How Did It End? That could be a cool combo. I think those are kind of my top ones at the moment. Album rankings. Controversial, but this one, someone wanted me to rank 1 through 11 my albums. Please don't come for me, but here we go. Number 1, Tortured Poets Department. Number 2, Folklore. Number 3, Midnights. Number 4, Lover. Number 5, 1989. Number 6, Evermore. Number 7, Speak Now. Number 8, I'm Sorry, Reputation. Number 9, Fearless. Number 10, Red, with the exception of All Too Well, 10-minute version. If I could lump that into number 1, I would. But number 10 is Red, not my favorite album. Number 11 has to be Debut. Mostly because something about Debut, honestly, I never listened to it. But number 2, it just doesn't cut for me. Like, it doesn't make me feel things. The only one that it does make me feel things is The Other Side of the Door. I can get down and groovy with the outro of Other Side of the Door. With the space and the little white lies and the conversation and the little la la. Did I mix that up? I probably did. Anyways, I'm in a singing mood. Someone said, why does Taylor have to help so many people at shows? Listen, I don't know all the answers to things, but what I do know is I feel like there's kind of this culture now with concerts, and this is nothing against Taylor. I mean, I would do the exact same thing if I was her, where I think because of social media, issues at concerts have been a thing forever. And honestly, her fans are not sitting there getting wasted at her shows. Like, you could go to any other show and there's probably 15, 20 different medical emergencies happening in the crowd because people are just crazy and drunk and wild. Her shows are wildly tame, if you want to put those two words together. Extremely tame. And I think that there's an obligation for her because it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. If she doesn't call it out, then people are like, oh, she doesn't look out for her fans. if she does call it out, people are like, she's constantly calling it out. So I think it's kind of those things where she obviously cares very deeply. And I also think after the Brazil or Mexico incident where the fan passed away, I think that it's definitely higher up on her radar, which is 100% fair. And I have no problem with that. Next, someone wants to know my favorite Taylor's version. Hands down, 1989. The vault tracks are Chef's Kiss, Absolute Perfection. I don't even know which one I would pick as my favorite. Ooh, I feel like I honestly don't even know if I could pick one. What's the one? I'm blanking on all the names. I am terrible with song titles. I could sing the lyrics to any song for you, but when it comes to song titles, I'm absolutely awful. Okay, here we go. Taylor's version, 1989. Is It Over Now? I love that one, and I also love Say Don't Go. Think I didn't see there were flashing lights. Always had the decency to keep my nights out of sight. All we was my hips and thighs. We need to bring that trend back. I liked that one. Honest opinion, Rep TV. What is the verdict? Okay. My honest opinion, we're close. I think we're close. I think we're getting there. And I say that Hong Kong beep beep. I say that wearily. Wearily. I think August 20th in London. I'm putting my money on it, and I'm putting my money on something happening September 13th. Case closed. Those are the 2 dates that I'm clowning for. What do I think is going to happen after the Eras Tour? I think Taylor's going to enjoy NFL season. She's going to round it out with Travis. They're going to take it home, win the Super Bowl again. It's going to be 2.0 of last year, and I think it's going to be absolutely social media perfection. We're going to have the most memeable, fantastical moments of all time. And I think she'll travel. I think she'll travel a little bit. I think she'll chill at home. I think we won't see her most of like the summer of 2025, and I think fall 2025 she'll emerge. I think we'll see something from her in fall 2025. I don't know what that might be. It might be a music video, it might be something. I think she'll be quiet for the summer, enjoy her time with Travis, do her thing, and then fall she'll emerge. That's kind of my thought, my gut feeling. Top 3 songs from Reputation. Okay. Top 3 has to be, number 1's Getaway Car, obviously. Number 2, New Year's Day. Overlooked in my opinion. Number 3, probably Look What You Made Me Do. Like I said, Reputation's my number 8 album. It's not my favorite, but I am very excited for the vault tracks because I think they are going to be fire, in Taylor's words. Okay, 2 more questions. Will Taylor stop making music after the Eras Tour? I'm going to give you one word answer. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. She will be full throttle, if you will. Brand new full throttle. She will not slow down. She might have a slower year for 2025. I do not think she's slowing down. I think we could very well have TS12 early 2026. Very easily. And I see it being a Lover meets Tortured Poets Department meets Midnight meets 1989. Does that make any sense? Do you guys track on that? Let me know if you agree or disagree. And we'll finish out with one of my favorite games I've been playing with you guys, which is Kiss, Marry, Kill. The 3 that they gave me were Debut, Fearless, Speak Now. Okay, Kill Debut. I'm going to kiss Fearless, and I'm going to marry Speak Now because Hey Steven. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. I love that song. It's a probably top 10 song for me from Taylor. Maybe I'll do a top 10 song episode one time. Let me know if you guys want that from me. But anyways, that's it for today, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I am just so beyond grateful for the support that you've shown for this podcast. If you want to show more support, the 1-year anniversary of Swiftie School podcast is coming up very rapidly, like in a couple weeks, and I am hosting a clown call for literally anybody who joins my Patreon. You can join for $2. That is how much it costs, and that helps support me so much. I greatly, greatly appreciate anybody who joins. If you have ever thought about joining the Patreon or you want to join a clown call and just see what it's all about, it is so much fun, and we are going to be throwing a literal party over Google Meet, and by we, I mean me, on, I think it's going to be August 25th. Is that a Sunday? August 25th, whatever that date is, and I cannot wait. So go to Patreon, patreon.com/Swiftie School, and join any tier, $2 tier, $5 tier, $10 tier, or $19.89. You choose your tier. I would love to have you. And that's all that I have for you today. Thanks so much. And as always, it's another great day to be live at St. Taylor's Taylor Swift. See you on the next one. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I know all too well how busy life can be, and I am so grateful that you chose to stay. Now just know this is me trying, and I would greatly appreciate if you took a minute to leave a review or maybe share this episode with a fellow Swiftie. Make sure you join my broadcast channel on Instagram for more Swiftivities. And long story short, this love is real, and I'm beyond grateful for your support. See you next time.